Many want to achieve wealth, but few are willing to discover how to actually reach it. It is necessary to adjust some things in your subconscious every night. According to the teachings of Rhonda Byrne, Napoleon Hill, and Esther Hicks, you will discover the most effective way to attract wealth into your life. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button right now. And if possible, write this: I am ready to get rich. There is a moment of the day when the mind becomes more accessible, more vulnerable, and at the same time more powerful. The minutes before sleep. It is in this silent instant, when the body begins to relax and thought slows down, that the subconscious opens up. And it is right there that millionaire secrets begin to act. Wealth does not come from physical effort. It comes from the way the mind is trained. Many still believe that fortune is tied to hard work, long hours, continuous sacrifice. But true wealth, the kind that lasts, is built from within. When you learn to command the subconscious, everything begins to change. What was scarce begins to be abundant. What was impossible starts to feel natural. Life begins to align with thoughts. All external results are only a reflection of internal thoughts. The way someone thinks every day shapes the reality they live in. Thoughts of scarcity, fear, worry attract similar situations. On the other hand, thoughts of abundance, confidence, and financial security open paths to opportunities that once went unnoticed. And this doesn't happen by magic. It happens because the mind sees what it is trained to see. People who live thinking about debts live surrounded by them. People who live imagining wealth begin to attract ideas, decisions, and people who cooperate with this scenario. That is why listening to words that reinforce abundance before sleep is like planting fertile seeds in the most fertile soil possible, the subconscious. Before sleeping, the mind is in a state between the conscious and the unconscious. It goes through a brain frequency called theta, where judgment decreases and information enters more easily. That is why what you hear or visualize at this moment has immense power. It is as if the words go straight through the main door of the brain and settle in the core that commands all automatic decisions. If you hear something positive and rich at this moment, the mind begins to accept it as reality. And the most amazing part, it begins to work, even during sleep, to manifest that reality the next day. Maybe you grew up hearing that money is hard, that wealth is only for a few, that the good things in life are not for you. These ideas are stored in the subconscious as absolute truths. And the worst part, you start living exactly within those limits. Not because they are real, but because your mind believes them. The subconscious is like an autopilot. It drives your life based on the instructions it received since childhood. If those instructions are negative, your route will be full of scarcity. But if you change the instructions, you change the path. Listening to audios with wealth affirmations before sleeping is a way to reprogram the subconscious. Each word enters as a new command. Each positive phrase about money, abundance, and worthiness works like a new code being inserted into the base of your mental system. And over time, what used to be resistance turns into acceptance. You begin to accept the idea that you deserve to have money, that you can have money, that it is normal to have money. And this acceptance is the first step for the subconscious to begin cooperating with your desires. When the subconscious believes that you can be rich, it activates internal resources that were dormant. Creativity begins to flow, intuition strengthens, confidence increases. You begin to make decisions more aligned with abundance. And more, you start behaving like a wealthy person even before money shows up. And that changes everything, because behavior shapes results. The way you think and act attracts situations that confirm those thoughts. Now imagine, for a moment, what your life would be like if you truly believed that money is always coming to you. If, instead of worry, you felt peace when thinking about your finances. If instead of fear, you felt excitement when imagining your future. This change in mental state is what activates the hidden power of the subconscious. And this doesn't happen overnight, but it begins with small habits. And one of the most powerful is precisely this: listening to affirmation audios before sleep. Repeat out loud now, if you can. I open myself to receive all the wealth the universe has to offer me. Say it with faith, with presence, as if it were already true. Because in the mind, everything begins as an idea, and ideas transform into reality when they are watered with frequency and emotion. If you do this for 3 days in a row, you will already start to notice changes in your behavior, in your energy, in your worldview. And over time, these internal changes will reflect in external results. Science has already proven that the brain does not distinguish between what is real and what is imagined with emotion. This means that by visualizing and affirming wealth with intensity, your brain reacts as if it were already happening. It releases hormones, creates neural connections, strengthens thought patterns that favor the realization of what was imagined. That is why listening to wealth messages before sleeping is not a waste of time. It is a powerful technique of mental reprogramming. Throughout the next parts, we will go deeper into these subconscious secrets. We will understand how beliefs are formed, how they are broken, and how we can cultivate a wealthy mindset every day. You will discover that you don't need to change the world out there to get rich. You need first to change the world inside here. Everything begins with a thought. Everything begins with an idea. Everything begins with you deciding it is time to prosper. Now that you have understood the power of the minutes before sleep and how they directly influence your subconscious, it is time to dive even deeper into this universe. Most people live on automatic mode, repeating mental patterns that were absorbed long ago, often in childhood. And these patterns are like invisible roots that determine how far a person can grow. Those who live with a mind programmed for scarcity will hardly be able to sustain a prosperous lifestyle, even if they occasionally have access to money. It simply slips away because the mind does not accept its permanence. That is why it is essential to understand that everything begins with what is installed inside your mind. The subconscious is like the soil of a garden. If it is full of weeds, negative thoughts, limiting beliefs, fears and traumas, any seed of wealth will struggle to grow. And what we are doing now is exactly this: cleaning that soil. By listening to these words before sleeping, you are removing the roots of scarcity and planting the seeds of prosperity. But it is not just listening for the sake of listening. It is listening with intention, with commitment, with awareness that this is the beginning of a transformation. When you begin to expose yourself daily to messages that reinforce your ability to become wealthy, the mind begins to create new connections. This is something neuroscience calls neuroplasticity. Your brain is moldable. It learns, unlearns, and relearns as long as it receives the right stimuli. What we are doing here is exactly that, applying new stimuli through repetition, emotion, and visualization. 3 powerful tools that, when combined, transform the way you see yourself and the way you see money. Now visualize with the eyes of the mind what your life would be like with money to spare. Imagine your bills paid with ease, your choices being made without worrying about price, your days starting with peace of mind. This image, no matter how distant it seems, starts to come closer each time you feed it with faith and intention. The subconscious learns through repetition, and what you repeat with emotion, it records as truth. That is why each positive phrase you hear and repeat becomes little by little part of your new identity. And why before sleep? Because at this moment, the resistance of the conscious mind is weaker. During the day, we are bombarded by information, demands, responsibilities. The conscious mind stays alert, analytical, often even skeptical. But at night, when everything quiets down, the door of the subconscious opens. And it is exactly at this moment that you need to act. Instead of going to sleep with worries, Sleep with affirmations. Instead of taking problems to bed, take possibilities. This completely changes the quality of your sleep and of your life. Now I want you to say it out loud, even if it's soft, just so you can hear it. I allow wealth to enter my life with ease. Feel the weight of this phrase. Imagine it penetrating every corner of your mind, replacing old beliefs. And write in the comments if you can. From today onward, I choose to think like a rich person. This simple gesture activates your mind to the new. Repetition is the mother of transformation, and everything new needs nourishment to grow strong. Many people believe they'll only change their lives when money arrives. But the secret is the opposite. Money only arrives when you change your mindset, and that requires consistency. It requires a new internal dialogue. Start paying attention to the things you say to yourself every day. If you find yourself saying, "This is too expensive, I can't afford it, I don't have the money for that," you're reinforcing scarcity. Every word is a seed, and what you sow, you reap. The subconscious doesn't understand sarcasm. It doesn't understand joking. It just records it. If you keep saying, "I'm poor, I'm broke, I'm broke," the subconscious interprets this as a command, and then it does everything in its power to maintain this reality, because it wants to be faithful to the image you repeat. It's like an obedient employee who follows orders without question. So be strict with your words. Start replacing phrases of scarcity with phrases of abundance. Say, whenever you can, "Money comes to me in unexpected ways. I am worthy of prosperity. My financial life improves every day." These phrases aren't magic. They're keys. They unlock parts of your mind that were blocked. They reorganize your internal energy. They shift the focus of your thoughts. And this, over time, changes your reality. Remember, the subconscious is slow but steady. It doesn't change overnight, but it also doesn't go back if reprogrammed firmly. It's like training a muscle. At first, it's difficult, it seems strange, but over time, it becomes natural. And the most powerful thing is that by sleeping with these thoughts, you carry this new programming into your sleep. And during sleep, your mind continues working. Your brain processes, organizes, and reinforces everything you experienced and felt during the day. In other words, if you sleep with positive affirmations about wealth, you wake up with more energy, clarity, and confidence. The day starts differently. Decisions change, and so do results. Don't underestimate the power of 3 days. 3 nights of intense repetition can be the beginning of a turning point. If you truly commit, if you listen carefully, repeat with faith, and visualize with intention, your mind will begin to change. And when your mind changes, everything changes. You begin to perceive opportunities you previously overlooked. You begin to take different actions. You begin to attract people and situations that contribute to your prosperity. A rich mind isn't an inheritance, it's a construction, and anyone can build it. As long as they start, you've already started. Now keep going, keep listening, keep affirming, keep imagining. This isn't wishful thinking, it's preparation. You're training your mind to accept wealth as normal. And when that happens, money will stop being a burden and will start being a natural consequence of your new mindset. The mind is like a mirror. It reflects exactly what's before it without question, and what's most frequently before your mind is what it interprets as truth. Therefore, repeating positive messages about wealth, especially during moments of greater mental openness, such as before bed, has a much more profound effect than one might imagine. The subconscious doesn't argue, or think. It simply absorbs. And as it absorbs these new ideas, it begins to control your body, your emotions, and even your decisions in a way that aligns with what you've planted. Many people don't realize it, but they spend the entire day harboring ideas that block the flow of money. From the moment they wake up until bedtime, their minds are bombarded with financial worries, negative news, and unfair comparisons with others. And at night, when the body finally rests, the mind is exhausted, burdened with thoughts that do nothing to contribute to the process of wealth. What you hear, see, and feel throughout the day forms a dense mass of commands that go straight to your subconscious. But the good news is that this can also be reversed. That's why the habit of listening to affirmations before bed is so powerful. At this moment, when the mind relaxes and the brain's frequency slows, the subconscious becomes like a sponge. It's not busy resisting, judging, or questioning. It simply receives. So, if you place phrases of confidence, prosperity, and worthiness there, in this open space, your brain will begin to recalibrate how it interprets the world. Little by little, you'll stop seeing difficulties in everything and begin to identify possibilities where before you only saw limitations. Anyone who wants to get rich must first accept the idea that getting rich is possible, and more than possible, it's natural. It's not about luck, privilege, or chance. It's about mental habit, an internal pattern that begins with small choices, like what you decide to think when you wake up, what you decide to feel when you look at your bank account, and how you react when something doesn't go as expected. Those with a poor mind wallow in the problem. Those with a rich mind immediately seek a way out. And this has nothing to do with how much money you have now, but with the type of command installed within your mind. You need to start treating your mind like sacred territory. Be mindful of what enters, what stays, and what is repeated. Words are seeds. Emotions are fertilizer, and what you say with emotion goes straight to the subconscious with full force. So even if you're still in a difficult financial situation, change the way you talk about it. Instead of saying, "I don't have the money for that," say, "I'll soon be able to do that easily." It sounds simple, but this shift changes your internal vibration, and your mind begins to accept this new vision as reality. Building a rich mind requires practice, patience, and persistence. You can't change decades-old programming in a few hours, but you have to start. And it's that beginning that transforms everything. Each night, as you listen to prosperity messages, you're reinforcing a new identity. You're telling your brain, "This is who I am now." And the brain, obedient as ever, begins to adjust everything it does to align with this new identity. You begin to think differently, feel differently, act differently, and the world responds accordingly. Believe me, what you think while you sleep has a much greater impact than you might imagine. Some people wake up tired and discouraged because they went to sleep harboring fear, anxiety, and scarcity. And there are people who wake up with an inexplicable lightness because they slept nourishing confidence, tranquility, and faith. It's during sleep that the mind organizes everything. And if the raw material for this organization is positive, the next day tends to be much more productive and aligned with prosperity. So, don't underestimate the power of a well-planned night. Even if it seems small, this daily practice has a cumulative effect. One brick per night, one seed at a time. And before long, you'll begin to reap the rewards. Your behavior changes, your language changes, your energy changes, and when this happens, the people around you begin to notice. Opportunities that previously went unnoticed begin to present themselves. Money begins to flow more fluidly. You begin to behave like someone who already has what you want, and this accelerates the process. Repeat now with presence. I accept prosperity as part of my reality. Speak slowly, feeling each word, and if you want to go further, write in the comments. My mind is learning to live in abundance. This further reinforces the programming. Writing is a powerful way to solidify ideas. By writing, you activate parts of the brain that help to fix these messages more deeply, and everything that is fixed consistently becomes behavior. You don't need to fully understand how this works to start applying it. Just as a seed sprouts, even if you don't understand the biology behind it, your mind also responds to the right stimuli, even if you're still learning how everything fits together. The important thing is to start and keep going. Listen before you sleep, feel the words, visualize the scenarios, and repeat with faith, even if it feels strange at first. Discomfort is a sign that you're breaking out of automatic mode. And that's exactly what will open the doors to a new life. Don't rush. Wealth worth its salt isn't something that appears overnight. It's something that grows from within, grows with firm roots, and endures. A rich mind isn't made of haste. It's made of persistence. You've already taken the first step. Keep listening, keep believing, keep transforming your inner dialogue, because money is simply the consequence of a mind that has learned to think like a rich person. If there's a silent enemy that keeps people from achieving wealth, it's called the scarcity mindset. It's invisible, subtle, and therefore dangerous. It appears in automatic phrases like, "This isn't for me," "Money is hard to come by," "Those born poor die poor." It infiltrates feelings of guilt when spending, envious reactions when seeing someone prosper, and destructive comparisons that paralyze rather than motivate. The scarcity mindset is conditioned to see lack in everything. And this lack becomes reality, not because the world outside is bad, but because the world inside is being poorly fed. Everyone who lives financially comfortably today has had to break this pattern at some point. And this break isn't external, it's internal. It's a silent decision that happens when you realize that continuing to think like a poor person only creates more poverty. This has nothing to do with arrogance or greed. It's about responsibility. From the moment you recognize that it's possible to change your mindset, everything begins to transform. Scarcity stops being a sentence and becomes just a stage from which it's possible to escape. The subconscious responds very clearly to what you repeat intensely, and the curious thing is that it doesn't even care whether what you're saying is true or not. It simply records it. Therefore, if you sleep repeating that you're capable, that you're worthy, that money comes easily, your mind will organize all your future actions according to this new map. This doesn't mean that money will fall from the sky, but rather that you will begin to think, act, and react in a way that aligns with prosperity. One of the biggest forces that impedes subconscious reprogramming is the insistence on seeking external proof before changing internally. Many people say, "I'll believe it when I have money," but it's the opposite. Money appears when you believe it. The rich mind anticipates it. It acts as if it already has it, and in doing so, it creates the pathways that make this reality inevitable. It's as if you're already wearing the identity of someone who prospers, even before seeing the results in the physical world. And this, over time, becomes authentic. This is one of the reasons why listening to affirmations before bed is so transformative. You're telling your subconscious, this is the new you. Even if doubts or discomfort still linger, daily repetition will clear away these obstacles. It's like installing a new program on an old computer. At first, the system still tries to work with the old files, but gradually, as the new commands are reinforced, everything begins to align. Thoughts adjust, behavior follows suit, and results follow. Now do a simple exercise. Close your eyes for a few seconds and imagine your ideal day as a prosperous person. How would you wake up? What would you do in the morning? What would your routine be like? Who would you talk to? What would you be wearing? Where would you be living? The more details you visualize, the stronger the message will be to your subconscious. Visualizing is mentally rehearsing the reality you want to experience. And the brain, as mentioned, doesn't distinguish very well between what is real and what is emotionally repeated. So, visualize emotionally. Live this scene internally. And now say out loud, even if quietly, "My financial reality is changing because my thoughts are changing." This phrase, spoken with sincerity, has the power to break the resistance of the old pattern. And if you want to further reinforce this transformation, write in the comments, "I am reprogramming my mind to accept wealth." This type of action creates a mental anchor. It's as if you are stamping this new identity within yourself. The great trap of scarcity is making you believe you need luck, help from others, a magical push. But the truth is that the power lies, and always has, within your own mind. What's often missing is direction, and that's what you're doing now. You're redirecting your attention, your energy, and your intention toward wealth. And where your attention goes, energy grows. Start observing how your mind reacts when you hear phrases like, "I am a prosperous person," or "I naturally attract money." If there's discomfort, it's a sign that the old pattern is still active. But if you keep at it, this discomfort will dissolve. Reprogramming the subconscious doesn't happen by accident. It's done by consciously repeating thoughts aligned with what you desire. So keep listening, keep affirming, keep visualizing. Even when it seems like nothing is changing, know that change is already underway. It's like a seed that hasn't yet sprouted, but is already taking root. Persistence is the mind's fertilizer. The more you expose yourself to the new programming, the stronger it becomes. And over time, it completely replaces the old scarcity system. You are creating a new you, a self that thinks differently, acts differently, vibrates differently. A self that doesn't sabotage itself, doesn't doubt, doesn't shy away from wealth. This new self is growing stronger with each night you dedicate to your mind. With each positive phrase, each visualization, each new thought choice. And the more you connect with this new version, the further you move away from scarcity, not because the world outside has changed, but because you have changed within. The mind is such a powerful territory that it can be a person's prison or freedom. And what defines this is not facts, but thoughts. Two people can live in the same external reality, with the same challenges, the same resources, the same available time. One thrives, the other remains stagnant. The difference lies in what each feeds inside their heads. One has decided to believe they can, the other believes they never will, and what you believe becomes true for you. The subconscious transforms your most repeated beliefs into automatic behaviors. And these behaviors shape your life day after day. Therefore, when we talk about reprogramming the subconscious for wealth, we're talking about creating a new mental foundation, an invisible but extremely strong foundation. Something that doesn't shake with crises, doesn't weaken with negative comments, doesn't crumble in the face of an obstacle. This foundation is made of consistent thoughts, repeated every day with intention. Thoughts that say, "I can, I deserve, wealth is within my reach." And when these phrases stop being just words and become conviction, the world around us changes. It's amazing how the mind shapes perception. Someone with a mindset programmed for scarcity can be surrounded by opportunities and see none. However, someone with a mindset trained for wealth sees opportunities where most see only problems. This is because the subconscious creates filters. It selects what you pay attention to. It filters out what seems important and what doesn't. And if your subconscious is programmed to see scarcity, it will ignore anything that could lead you to prosperity. Therefore, listening to abundance quotes before bed is like changing your mind's filters. It's like adjusting the lens focus to see more clearly what is already available. But you couldn't see it yet. Repetition is the key. It's what transforms an isolated thought into a deep belief. It's not the content of the phrase that matters, but how much it's repeated with presence. Just once doesn't change anything, but 100 times, 1,000 times, repeated with intention and feeling, they begin to shift mental structures. They begin to break down old barriers and make room for a new way of thinking and living. That's precisely why you need to keep listening. You need to make this moment before bed a ritual, a sacred habit of internal reconstruction. Say now, with confidence, "My mind is adapting to abundance every day," and feel how this phrase resonates within you. If it feels uncomfortable, great. This is a sign that something is being shifted. The subconscious resists change at first because it has become accustomed to the old pattern. But this resistance is temporary. With persistence, it dissolves. So, repeat it even when you're in doubt. Repeat it even when you're afraid. Because transformation begins right there, when you persist, even when you don't feel it yet. And if you want to reinforce this, write in the comments, "I choose to think like a rich person every day." It's simple, but it's powerful. And over time, it becomes part of who you are. Have you ever noticed how rich people, even when faced with problems, have a different attitude? They don't panic. They don't play the victim. They breathe, analyze, and make decisions with a focus on the solution. This isn't luck, it's mindset. It's training. And that's what you're doing now, training your mind to react differently. You're creating a mindset that doesn't shy away from responsibility, that doesn't hide behind excuses, that doesn't paralyze in the face of fear. And more than repeating phrases, you need to start observing the small signs of change. It could be a different way of thinking about a situation. It could be a new idea that comes out of nowhere. It could be a feeling of relief that you don't yet understand, but feel. All of these are signs that the reprogramming is working. The mind begins to relax, to trust, to open to new possibilities. And this openness creates space for money to flow. Money, after all, is an energy that circulates best in organized internal environments. A mind filled with guilt, fear, and doubt repels money, even without realizing it. A peaceful, secure, and confident mind attracts, retains, and multiplies it. Therefore, the goal is not just to attract money, it's to become someone capable of keeping it and making it grow. And that starts now, with the thoughts you choose to repeat before bed. It's in this quiet moment that you plant the seeds of your new financial reality. You might be thinking, but is that all that works? The answer is, it works because it changes the foundation. It all starts with a thought. Every great external change begins with an internal change. No one truly becomes rich without first becoming richer on the inside. And what you're doing now is exactly that, enriching your mental world, placing new codes, new images, new words at the center of your identity. Wealth is a construction, and you are the architect. Every thought, every visualization, every affirmation is a brick, and the more conscious you are of this process, the faster you'll see results. It's not about luck, fate, or coincidence. It's about consistency. A consistency that begins at night, repeats itself throughout the day, and transforms into a new way of living. And that's what's happening to you now. You're creating a solid foundation, a mind prepared to receive, sustain, and multiply wealth. Maybe you haven't noticed yet, but something inside you is already different. It could be a slight, almost imperceptible sensation, or perhaps a new clarity of thought. The magnitude of the change doesn't matter. The important thing is to recognize that it's happening, and this is the biggest sign that your mind is responding to the new pattern being established. Every time you hear a wealth affirmation before bed, an old part is being dismantled and a new one is being built. It's not about physical effort nor about doing more, but about thinking differently. And when your thinking changes, everything changes with it. The mind is a system that operates by association. This means it constantly creates connections between ideas, memories, and emotions. If for years you've associated money with hardship, worry, arguments, debt, or suffering, it's natural for your subconscious to avoid it. This may seem strange, but that's exactly how it works. The mind rejects what it believes to be dangerous. Even if you consciously say, "I want to be rich," if your subconscious still associates wealth with pain, it will sabotage you, and you won't even realize it, because it's faster and stronger than logical thought. That's why repeating positive affirmations is so important. It creates new associations. It begins to replace old images with images of tranquility, security, and freedom. Over time, the mind stops seeing money as an enemy and starts to see it as an ally. This is what happens when you sleep listening to prosperity messages. The mind, in that more receptive state, begins to rebuild its internal connections. And by doing so, It allows you to approach wealth without resistance. And this is where a key point comes in. Familiarity. The mind only allows you to have what you feel familiar with. If money still feels distant, strange, and outside your reality, it will continue to elude you. But if, day after day, you get used to the idea that having money is normal, that you deserve it and can manage wealth, then your mind begins to accept this reality. And what the mind accepts, it attracts. Not by magic, but through perception, behavior, and focus. You need to get used to the idea of being rich. You need to normalize it in your head, not as a distant dream, but as something that's part of your life. That's why we repeat, listen before bed, because that's the moment of greatest absorption. And the more you listen, the more familiar it becomes. And the more familiar, the more natural. Wealth is not for the chosen, it's for the prepared. And preparation begins within, in the mind. Each positive phrase is another brick in this construction. Say now, I am becoming an increasingly prosperous person. It doesn't matter what your bank account looks like right now. What matters is what you're programming within yourself. The external will adjust to the internal. This is inevitable when there's consistency. And if you want to further reinforce this process, write in the comments, I am becoming familiar with wealth. This further cements this idea in your subconscious. Remember, what you repeat with intention becomes truth. Another important point is the sense of entitlement. Many people don't get rich because deep down they believe they don't deserve it. This could be due to guilt, past stories, or comparisons with others. The mind carries these records as if they were clauses in an invisible contract. You can't have too much, or someone will suffer. You shouldn't ask for too much. You're not good enough. These inner voices silently sabotage any attempt to prosper, and that's why you need to override them. When you hear affirmations like, I deserve to be rich, or prosperity is my birthright, you're breaking with these inner voices. You're adding new clauses to your mental contract, and over time, this new contract begins to prevail. You begin to allow yourself to receive, you begin to feel comfortable with money, you begin to desire it more intensely, and most importantly, without guilt. Guilt is an anchor that pulls you down. Acceptance is a springboard that propels you up. It's not about arrogance, it's about truth. You're not here to survive, you're here to thrive. You're not here to struggle with bills every month. You're here to live with ease and freedom. And that starts now with the decision to reprogram your mind every night. 3 days of consistency are enough to start an internal revolution. And this revolution, even if invisible at first, changes everything over time. You're learning to create a new mental environment, one where money is welcome, where wealth is natural, where abundance is constant, an environment where you don't sabotage yourself, limit yourself, or diminish yourself. And the stronger this environment becomes, the more it influences your attitudes, your decisions, your emotions, and all of this begins to reflect in your external world. Wealth is a journey that begins within. You're already on this journey. Now what you need to do is keep going. Don't give up on the second day or the third. Make it a lifestyle. Make the habit of listening, repeating, and visualizing as natural as brushing your teeth, because it's this silent consistency that shapes your new destiny. There comes a point where change becomes inevitable, not because something magical happens, but because the mind can no longer sustain the old pattern. This point comes when you repeat the new thoughts of prosperity so many times that the old ones begin to lose strength. They dissolve like a mist that dissipates at sunrise. And the curious thing is that this transformation doesn't hurt. On the contrary, it soothes, because living in scarcity is tiring, thinking small is heavy, living limited, desiring more and accepting less is exhausting. But when the mind begins to accept the idea of abundance, everything becomes lighter. Life begins to flow more naturally. Perhaps you spent years believing that money was hard to come by, that you had to fight hard to have some, that only those born with a silver spoon in their mouth could have financial security. These ideas, even if they seem realistic, are just programs, and like any program, they can be uninstalled and replaced. And that's what you're doing now, installing a new system within your mind, a system that recognizes money as a natural part of life, a system that isn't intimidated by high numbers, a system that understands that wealth isn't a privilege for the few, but a consequence of what you cultivate in your head every day. Before sleep, your brain enters a transitional state between consciousness and unconsciousness. It's as if you're passing from a room full of voices to a silent hallway. And it's in this hallway that the words you hear penetrate most deeply. Therefore, repeating affirmations at this time has a much greater impact. The subconscious isn't distracted. It's present, receptive, ready to record. And what it records frequently, it transforms into automatic commands. You may not realize it right away, but these words are taking hold. They're becoming part of your new internal vocabulary. Soon, without even realizing it, you'll find yourself thinking differently. You'll look at situations that once frightened you with more ease. You'll handle money more calmly. You'll start to have new ideas. And most importantly, you'll start to feel more deserving. This feeling, deservingness, is one of the pillars of wealth. Until you believe you deserve it, you'll reject everything you desire, even unintentionally. And deserving isn't about thinking you're better than others. It's simply recognizing that you have as much right as anyone else. Wealth doesn't choose. It responds. And it responds to what you vibrate internally. A mind that vibrates scarcity, doubt, and insecurity attracts precisely that. A mind that vibrates trust, security, and acceptance creates pathways for money to come more easily. Therefore, what you're doing now is more than just listening to pretty words. It's changing the frequency of your mind. Say now, wealth is natural to me. Speak slowly, feeling each word. Even if it still feels strange, continue. Because over time, this phrase stops being just an idea and becomes a conviction. And when you believe it, your brain begins to work silently to make this reality happen. It activates areas that were dormant. It connects ideas that previously didn't seem possible. It reorganizes your way of seeing the world, and the world begins to respond. If you want to go further, write in the comments now. My mind is already accepting wealth as part of my life. Writing is a reinforcement. It's a way of telling your brain, this is important. And whatever you mark as important, it treats as a priority. Over time, you'll see that everything that seemed impossible starts to become natural. You start to change your behavior, your attitude, your energy, and this attracts new results. A wealthy mind isn't built overnight, but it grows stronger every day you choose to listen to something positive instead of complaining. Every night you repeat phrases of abundance instead of going to sleep worried about debt. Every time you visualize a prosperous life instead of mentally replaying the same problems. It's these small, conscious choices that change everything. You are reprogramming the foundation of your reality. You are leaving behind an old, heavy, limited mental model, and you are adopting a new one, lighter, broader, more prosperous. This will require consistency. It will require repetition. It will require patience. But above all, it will require faith, not in something external, but in yourself. Because no one can do this work for you. Change only happens when it comes from within. Don't compare yourself to others. Don't try to rush the process. Just keep going at your own pace, with your own commitment, with your own intention. Because every night you hear these words before bed, you're taking another step toward a rich life, rich in peace, security, freedom, and yes, money too. Because money is part of the game. And you're learning to play intelligently, consciously, with a renewed mind. Many people spend their entire lives trying to change their results without changing the root of those results. It's like pruning the branches of a tree, hoping it will bear different fruit without ever touching the roots. And the root of all financial reality lies in the mind, specifically in what's stored in the subconscious. The decisions you make, the opportunities you perceive, the risks you avoid or embrace, all of this stems from what's installed inside your head. If you want to attract wealth, it's no use just changing your external behavior. You need to start with your ideas, your beliefs, the images that replay in your imagination every day. The subconscious acts as a server for invisible commands. It captures, stores, and executes them. And the most impressive thing is that it always seeks to confirm the most repeated information. If for many years you heard and believed that money is hard to come by, that rich people are selfish, that you don't have what it takes to succeed, your subconscious has treated these ideas as truths, and it has begun to shape your perception, your emotions, and your actions according to these ideas. This is automatic, silent, and highly efficient. That's why so many people, even when they try, end up always returning to the same place, because their minds are still stuck in old ideas. But this cycle can be broken, not with physical effort, not with constant struggle, but with reprogramming. And this reprogramming happens precisely in moments of least resistance, when you're relaxed, calm, and ready to sleep. In this state, your brain is more open. Brain waves slow down, and the conscious mind begins to shut down. That's when the subconscious takes over, and that's precisely when you plant new ideas. It's at this moment that phrases like, "I am prosperous," "wealth accompanies me," "I deserve to have an abundance of money," go straight to the center of your brain's automatic decision-making. You don't need to understand every technical detail of this process. You just need to open yourself to it. You need to allow yourself to listen, repeat, imagine, and most importantly, feel. Because feeling is what gives programming power. You can repeat a sentence 1,000 times, but without feeling, it will be just an empty sequence of words. Now, if you repeat it with emotion, with intention, with surrender, the mind captures it as a profound truth, and the brain begins to adjust everything around it to align with this new truth. Say now, with emotion, "Every day, wealth moves closer to my reality," and feel how it resonates within you. Let the phrase echo in your mind. Imagine yourself living more peacefully, making choices freely, breathing a sigh of relief when you look at your bank account. This visualization, done consistently, has a powerful effect. The brain begins to recognize this scenario as something possible, and then as something probable, and then, inevitably, as something real. If you want to reinforce this feeling, write in the comments now. "My financial reality is changing because I'm changing internally." This further reinforces the reprogramming. It's a silent commitment to a new version of yourself, and each time you do this, you're taking another step. A step that doesn't seem big, but that, over time, completely changes your destiny. Most people give up before change happens because they want to see results before strengthening their roots. But those who understand the power of the mind continue even without immediate signs, because they know that what's being built inside the head will sooner or later manifest itself outside, and when that happens, everything will seem to have suddenly changed. But the truth is that this change was built night after night, affirmation after affirmation, thought after thought. You need to trust the process. You need to remember that the mind works through repetition. What is repeated becomes strong. What is strong becomes dominant. And what dominates your mind controls your life. That's why listening to audios before bed is more than a technique. It's a commitment to your transformation. It's you taking control of what enters and remains in your mind. It's you deciding that you will no longer live limited by the ideas you were taught in the past. Wealth is a mental state before it's a material condition. And you're entering this state, you're aligning with this frequency. You're moving away from the mindset of, I can't do it, this isn't for me, and into the vibration of, I deserve it, I'm capable, this is already coming. And the longer you stay in this new vibration, the more your reality will reorganize to reflect it. The mind creates, and the world responds. Don't doubt the power of small repetitions. They are like drops of water that day after day sculpt even the hardest stone. Your subconscious is being sculpted, and what's being shaped is a new version of you. A version that thinks like a rich person, feels like a rich person, acts like a rich person, not because it's pretending, but because it is. And being comes before having. When you are who you are on the inside, having who you are on the outside is only a matter of time. A rich mind is, above all, a trained mind. It's not a matter of intelligence, luck, or opportunity. It's practice. It's habit. It's the conscious repetition of thoughts that build a new internal pattern. What differentiates a person who lives in abundance from someone who lives in scarcity isn't the environment or the circumstances. It's what happens inside each person's head. While one decides to see possibilities, the other sees only obstacles. While one is grateful for the little they have, the other complains about the much they lack. While one entertains thoughts of progress, the other repeats every day that nothing changes, and the mind believes it. Your external reality is merely a reflection of your internal structure. What you think, feel, and believe becomes behavior, and behavior translates into results. Therefore, if you want to change your financial reality, you need to start with what happens inside your head every day, especially at the moments when your mind is most open to receiving. Before bed. It is in this transition between wakefulness and sleep that the subconscious is most active, and it is at this moment that you must insert new commands. Think of it like setting an alarm. You set the time, the ringtone, the function, and the system executes. The subconscious works the same way. When you feed your mind with thoughts of wealth, it begins working to manifest that scenario, and it does so silently, often imperceptibly. You begin to behave differently. You begin to make small decisions that are more aligned with prosperity. You begin to say yes to opportunities that would previously have gone unnoticed. And you begin, little by little, to build a new reality without even realizing it. So, repeat out loud now. My mind is being trained for wealth. Say it with conviction, even if you still feel doubtful inside, because conviction comes with repetition, and the more you hear and repeat it, the more familiar this phrase becomes. And as we've seen, the mind only accepts what becomes familiar. It rejects the new at first, but after a while it begins to accept it as natural. And when that happens, transformation is inevitable. You need to get used to the idea that you can indeed live with financial peace of mind. You need to normalize this in your head. Stop feeling strange when imagining a life of abundance. Stop sabotaging yourself when you get close to something good. Stop thinking small just to please those trapped in scarcity. You're not here to limit yourself. You're here to grow, to live with ease, to view money naturally, not with fear. If you want to reinforce this process now, write in the comments, "My mind is creating new pathways for money to flow in." This isn't just a comment, it's a code you're recording, a reminder to your subconscious that everything is changing. And each reinforcement, no matter how small, accelerates the process of internal transformation. It's like adding more fuel to an already burning flame. Another important thing, don't fight old thoughts. Don't fight the beliefs that still arise. They are part of the process. Instead of fighting them, replace them. Every time a thought like, "I can't do it," arises, immediately say, "I'm learning to do it." When "this isn't for me" arises, say, "This is coming to me." This simple shift, done consciously, completely changes the direction of your mind. And over time, the subconscious stops repeating the old patterns because it understands they are no longer valid. Transformation doesn't happen through combat, but through replacement. You don't eliminate darkness by beating it. You eliminate it by turning on the light. And that's what we're doing now, turning on the light within your mind, a light of clarity, of confidence, of abundance. And this light, when strengthened, dissolves all the darkness of scarcity, without struggle, without effort, just with consistency. You may not realize it yet, but every night you hear these words, your mind is adapting, it's absorbing, it's reconfiguring itself. And over time, all of this becomes your new way of thinking. You'll begin to surprise yourself with your own attitude toward life. You'll realize that you no longer accept certain situations, that you no longer tolerate certain standards, that you begin to position yourself more firmly, because your mind is no longer programmed to live at the minimum. It's beginning to demand the maximum. And that's beautiful, because when the mind changes, the body follows. Decisions follow, opportunities arise, energy shifts, and everything around you begins to reflect this new internal configuration. You begin to attract people who think differently. You begin to see doors opening where before you only saw walls. You begin to feel something flowing, not because the world has changed, but because you have. Money is simply a manifestation of your internal energy. It responds to your frequency. If you vibrate fear, it moves away. If you vibrate trust, it moves closer. If you vibrate worthiness, it stays. And it all starts with what you're doing right now, reprogramming your mind night after night with thoughts and words that build a new pattern. Keep going, even when it seems like nothing is changing, even when old thinking wants to creep back in, even when the outside world doesn't yet reflect the change you already feel inside. Keep going, because internal change always comes first, and it's what sustains external change. The human mind is a repetition machine. It learns from what it sees, what it hears, what it feels, but above all from what is repeated. And when something is repeated often enough, the mind stops questioning. It accepts it, and from that moment on, it begins to operate based on that content, without even asking permission. This is exactly how mental patterns of scarcity are formed. They have been repeated so many times that they have become an absolute truth, even if they are illogical, even if they have no basis. If they have been said, heard, felt, and reinforced, they have become reality. Now think, how many times in your life have you repeated or heard phrases like, money is dirty, those who have a lot of money aren't happy, being rich is hard, there's never anything left over, those who are born poor die poor. These phrases, as harmless as they often seemed, have accumulated in your subconscious. They've shaped the way you see the world, react to opportunities, and deal with money. And this has created a kind of invisible filter that blocks prosperity. You try, you strive, you study, you work, but deep down, something is holding you back. Something is sabotaging you. And that something is the invisible content that has been installed inside your mind. But now you're doing the opposite. You're disconnecting from these limiting ideas and starting to install ideas that liberate, that expand, that connect you to a new level of thinking. Each phrase you hear before bed acts as a new command being inserted. And the more times you hear it, the deeper that command goes. And the deeper it goes, the more automatic it becomes, until the moment comes when you act prosperously without even needing to think. Prosperity begins to become natural, and that's when the real magic happens, when the new pattern becomes your default mode. This reprogramming isn't something mystical or miraculous. It's logical, practical, proven. Science has shown that the brain creates connections based on repetition. And the stronger the associated emotion, the stronger that connection becomes. That's why listening to sentimental prosperity phrases before bed is so powerful. Because at this time, you're more vulnerable, more open, more sensitive. And what enters you at this time has a profound impact. So, protect this moment. Be careful what you let into your mind before bed. This is the ground on which your new financial reality begins to be built. Say now with intention, my mind is becoming friends with money. Simple, direct, but incredibly powerful. Because when the mind sees money as a friend, it stops pushing it away. It stops feeling guilty, it stops resisting, and it begins to open up. It begins to see possibilities. It begins to accept the natural flow of prosperity. You no longer need to fight money. You just need to allow it in, and this starts within. Everything starts within. Now write in the comments, I am a friend of money. I feel good about prosperity. This affirmation is a permission code, a clear signal to your subconscious that you are ready to receive, that there is no longer any resistance, that money is welcome, that wealth is natural, that being prosperous doesn't make you worse or better than anyone else. It just makes you more aware of your worth and the possibilities that surround you. One thing to always remember, the subconscious doesn't understand no. It only understands focus. If you think, I don't want to be in debt anymore, it understands debt. If you think, I don't want to worry about money anymore, it understands worry about money. Therefore, the key is to always focus on what you want, not what you want to avoid. Instead of thinking, I want to escape scarcity, think, I want to enter abundance. Instead of saying, I'm tired of being broke, say, I'm becoming increasingly prosperous. It seems like a small detail, but it changes everything, because focus shapes the direction of your life, and the subconscious's focus is what creates the paths you will see. Your mind needs direction. It needs a clear vision. It needs a new identity. If you keep repeating what you've always repeated, you'll keep creating what you've always created. But if you start repeating something new, something aligned with the life you want to live, new paths will open. They already exist. They've always existed. What changes is your ability to perceive them. And this only happens when the mind is prepared, when it has been exposed to new thinking so many times that it ceases to be new and becomes normal. Little by little, you'll notice that you're changing. You'll feel calmer when thinking about money. You'll stop comparing yourself to those who have more. You'll stop complaining about what you don't yet have, and you'll start being grateful not only for what you already have, but for what's coming. Anticipatory gratitude is one of the most powerful tools available. When you give thanks as if you already have it, your brain understands that it's already real, and it begins working to adjust external reality to your internal vibration. Repeat, I give thanks for all the wealth that is already on its way, and feel how this phrase shifts your energy. It's a sign of trust, of openness, of certainty, and certainty is the soil where prosperity flourishes. You no longer need to chase money as if it was scarce. You simply need to align your mind so that it flows to you. And this is happening in the silence of your nights, in the power of your repetitions, in the focus of your intention. You are transforming into someone who thinks differently, feels differently, and lives differently. And this new version of you is already taking shape. It's being born now as you hear these words. Don't underestimate what's happening, because what begins as an inner whisper soon becomes a cry of reality. And your new reality is rich, abundant, and peaceful, because you've decided your mind will be too. It's curious how most people look for external solutions, for answers out there, when what really needs to change is within. It's not the salary that needs adjusting. It's not the country that needs changing. It's not the market that needs improving. What truly transforms a financial life is the silent belief system that operates within the mind every day. This system acts as a filter that defines what you see, what you ignore, what you accept, and what you reject. And if this system is programmed for scarcity, no matter how hard you fight, you'll always feel like you're one step behind. It's like software running in the background, constantly making decisions for you. You see an opportunity and feel fear. You see a promotion and think it's too much for you. You see someone thriving and think, that's not for me. These are all signs of a subconscious that still operates based on scarcity, and the only way to change this program is to insert a new one. A program based on abundance, trust, and worthiness. And that only happens with repetition, with persistence, with daily exposure to a new mental pattern, and most importantly, with intention. Listening to affirmations before bed is like talking directly to the part of your mind that controls everything. You're not just listening, you're retraining your brain. You're presenting it with new possibilities. You're saying, night after night, now I think differently. Now I act differently. Now I am different. And the brain, like a highly efficient machine, begins to adapt. It begins to cut out old pathways and strengthen new ones. And that's why, over time, you begin to feel like you're thinking rich, even if you don't have the money yet. This is the beginning of a turning point. Thinking like a rich person doesn't mean being arrogant or living for appearances. It means thinking clearly, lightly, and with a long-term vision. It means acting confidently, even in the face of uncertainty. It means making choices based on growth, not fear. It means stopping chasing and starting to attract. And all of this is built gradually, within your mind. What you feed grows. And if you feed thoughts of wealth every day, especially before bed, your mind will begin to grow toward prosperity. Say out loud now, "My mind is learning to function like a millionaire mind." Feel the weight of that phrase. Feel the confidence it carries. That's what you're doing now. Training your mind to operate at a new level, a level where fear gives way to strategy, where doubt gives way to action, where guilt gives way to entitlement. This is the kind of transformation that begins invisibly, but soon becomes inevitable. Write in the comments to reinforce this process. I am reprogramming my mind to think like a millionaire. This solidifies the command. It helps your subconscious understand that you are taking on a new role. And the more you affirm this, the more real it becomes. It doesn't matter if anyone around you believes it or not. The important thing is that you believe it, because those who believe create, and those who repeat shape reality. Have you ever noticed how rich people think differently? They speak differently. They react differently. They don't waste energy complaining. They don't badmouth their own lives. They don't say, "This isn't working for me." They have a clear vision for the future. They know that everything is a matter of construction, and you're on this same path. You're learning to think consciously, feel freely, and act with direction. All of this stems from your commitment to this new program. But understand, the old mindset will still try to creep back in. Automatic thoughts will arise saying, "It won't work. This is nonsense. You're not cut out for this." When this happens, smile. It's a sign that the new pattern is disturbing the old. That's great. Every real transformation is uncomfortable at first, because it's breaking down old structures. It's challenging the limits you believed were fixed. And your persistence at this point is what will determine the success of this change. Don't fight the old pattern. Just keep reinforcing the new one. Keep listening, repeating, visualizing. Every time you do this, you're strengthening the new mental connections. You're telling your brain, "This is the way to go now." And the brain responds. It's highly adaptable, it changes, it adjusts, and over time, it starts working for you instead of sabotaging you. You're becoming someone who thinks purposefully, who acts with intention, who feels freely, who chooses with confidence. This is rare, and this is powerful, because people like this aren't driven by circumstances. They create their own circumstances. They don't wait for luck, they build their own reality. And this construction begins in the silence of your mind. The moment you lie down, close your eyes, and allow yourself to hear something different from what you've always heard. Your new life is already being created, and it all started with a simple decision: to change what enters your mind. You decided to listen before bed. You decided to open yourself to new ideas. You decided you're ready to thrive, and your mind is responding. It's adapting, it's aligning. Keep going, because every night you're closer to the richest version of yourself. We've reached the end of this episode. Come back to the channel and listen for 3 consecutive days. You'll see that money will start appearing in your life. Subscribe and leave a like.